Hello, hello! Welcome to a YouTube exclusive cast by myself, Wardy. How's everyone doing today? Beautiful, beautiful Saturday. It's the weekend, and we've got some epic weekend StarCraft for you. It's another series from an Alimo League. I actually dove back a couple of Alimo Leagues to grab this series because I was looking at my recent uploads, and it was like, oh, we cast Innovation, and we cast more Innovation, and we cast another game of Innovation. Oh, and is that more Innovation? So I figured, you know what? We've cast so many Terran players. Let's cast some ZvP. We've cast so many Terran matchups. I thought we'd change it up a little bit. I don't really want to do mirror matchups too much because I know you guys don't like mirror matchups so much. So I thought we'd do some ZvP instead. So went back a couple of Lima Leagues, found these replays, and I reckon this is a pretty cool series. I'm pretty sure this one wasn't cast because on the Wikipedia there was no map order or anything, which means that generally no one really knows kind of what maps were played or anything like that, so it means that this has actually never been seen before. So enjoy, as we have soO, our blue Zerg in the bottom left-hand side, and the top right-hand side. Our red Protoss player, we have got ourselves a Patience. In game one of the best free series, as always, here in these Alimo League weeklies. We never really cast the Alimo League weekly finals. I feel like we never... It's been a while since like the Alimo League weekly has had like a really solid finals. I feel like recently they had like Trap versus Lenok or something, and I don't know, like I looked kind of quick like glimpse through the games to see if they were worth casting for like a YouTube video, and it's like Lingford, you know, Zerg dies at 7 minutes, Lingford number 2, or Nidus Network. So it wasn't exactly the greatest of games, so I'll jump back, saw these ones look pretty awesome, so let's jump on into this and see what will happen. ZvP, and of course as we get going, I guess very quickly worth mentioning, of course, if you do like the video, you have got a big thumbs up button down below that you can give a click to, and if you give that a click, you will like the video, and then it gets viewed by more people because people think you like it, and then YouTube's like, well, we'll show it to more people, and helps grow the channel, and it goes a long way in helping us out in terms of producing this constant content for you guys. Hopefully, again, like I said, everything seems to be on the up as well, by the way. I know a couple of you guys are asking for updates about my mum. I mentioned a couple of videos back. My mum was in hospital. She's doing way better. She had a brain infection, and she went a little bit doolally for about a week, and it's been really bad. But this week she's feeling more herself. Still in hospital, but definitely on the mend. So thank you so much for all the care and the questions about her. She's doing fantastic, though, and I think she's going to be out of hospital in about a week or so, maybe a bit longer. But definitely things are looking up, so thank you so much for everyone asking. In general, I'm in a pretty good mood because things are clearing up as well, so hopefully that shows in this video compared to the last couple of videos where I feel like maybe I was a little distracted and a little bit like, and all of that good stuff, despite as much as I try to be all positive and happy for YouTube videos, it's been one of those rough weeks. So back on track though, and that's what I like to be, and I just like it. You know, I'm one of these people where once I start working a lot, I really get into my work and I get so much done, and that's definitely how I'm feeling about all of this YouTube stuff and streaming and just making videos again right now. So really hyped up about all of this as we do see the Stargate finished up, or sorry, not the Stargate, the Twilight Council and the Robo Facility coming up in the main base. The Twilight is finishing it straight into a Dark Shrine here from Patience, as we are about 3.5 minutes in, so worth really looking at what's happened. Obviously, nothing too crazy, otherwise we would have stopped blabbering on and maybe mentioned it. It's pretty regular so far, this DT Shrine going into the Archon drop. Someone a video or two ago asked me to actually start maybe commenting a little bit more about the metagame and kind of what is the metagame, if there's, you know, talk about more deviations from the meta and stuff like this. And that sort of thing, and talking about why certain units look good early on. So let me tell you about the Archon drop, because the Archon drop really is like as meta as PvZ goes. There's a lot of different ways to open in PvZ, but a lot of the openings diverge back into an Archon drop. You know, if you open Stargate, an Archon drop's a very powerful follow-up. If you open in towards a, in towards this Twilight Council, a Dark Shrine, and then an Archon drop is a very common way to go. The DT Shrine, this was kind of the first form of an Archon drop, the Twilight and the Robo, no Stargate initially. It gets you the Warp Prism out very quickly, obviously, and you get the DTs up. This has an added effect of having the DTs, which kind of forces Spore Crawlers, and sometimes you will see the Zergs messing up. If the Spore's not protected properly, it can go down, you lose the third base, and everything becomes very disastrous very quickly. So it has that kind of effect. It did fall out of the meta this build for quite a while, because people kind of figured it out and sort of just said, well, this is what I do against it, and Protoss started experimenting with some other things. But when everything comes full circle at the end of the day, this really is just a build that puts you into a great position because of the damage you can deal, the pressure you can apply, and just how many units you can force while keeping yourself very safe as well. And with this variation, you actually get the double Warp Prism up, and that means you can be super aggressive. And you're going to have 4 Archons, 2 Warp Prisms, 2 Archons in each. You can go in 2 different directions, which forces the Zerg to make more units, having to split them up to trade and push them Archons back. And it can also mean that you can... it just really stops the Zerg being comfortable pushing across the map, as a DT warping in here as well will help these Adepts to defend this base. 2 DTs, in fact, that can morph in an Archon, and that should be a hard stop on that. But also you can bring these 2 Warp Prisms together, and 4 Archons all at once can actually just be a very good pushing forces. As you see Patience dropping in and is already picking up 1 Queen. Just needs to keep those Archons alive, and again, this is why these Archon drops are so good, because you just pick up whenever you're in trouble, you get out of there, you can keep these units alive, you can pick them up to get them out of trouble, and you will not lose anything while you're forcing units out of your opponent. You're getting a couple of drone kills here and there, and obviously all of that adds up, and it's a really good way of slowing the Zerg player down without much of an investment on your part as the Protoss player. And what is an investment which then helps you later on, because Archons are absolutely a unit you want a little bit later in the game, going into the mid-game and so on. 100% of the time, you want to rock around with those Archons, and you want to be like, yeah, you know, Archons in my army, they're very tanky, they can soak Baneling connections, they deal splash damage to Zerglings, they do good against Hydras even. It's a very good setup to have, and if the Dark Shrine open into, you continue to have the DTs to harass with. This was a little bit different here from Patience. He only went with 2 Archons, and otherwise he's been warping in a couple of DTs from this other Prism. But the idea is still the same, right? Like 1 Prism to go and micro those Archons. The other Prism, again, while it's not doing Archons, it is still filling a role, and it leaves this Prism to not be kind of the, you know, the warp-in worker. And as we do see, it looks like he will end up with 4 Archons and Prisms here, because he's bringing another one across the map. You remember he warped those 2 DTs bin back at home. They're going to come into play in the next few moments. So, on soO's side, we haven't talked much about soO at all, actually. It's all been about Patience and Archon drops, but, I mean, soO's obviously had a pretty good defense early on here. You can see he's lost about 10 drones, which is kind of costly, but it's pretty typical for an Archon drop to do damage like this. Now, drones is a pretty big deal. Getting 10 drones, I feel like usually you wouldn't lose this many workers, but you'd lose kind of similar amount of resources and roaches. Losing drones is a bit worse, because while you're... it's not just resources you're losing, it's that potential mining you're also being denied, so... and it's a pretty big deal. Patience had a pretty strong opening on here on Automaton, which typically has a map very large, very open in the center, but also just lots of pathways for counterattacks, and that's how these Zerglings find themselves running into a fairly unprotected third base. Just no shield battery here at all, and I have no idea why. The shield battery would be so amazing just to shut down these Zerglings as they run straight in. And I mean, this is multiple probe kills by the time that this is cleaned up. Now, Patience pushing across the map as well. He's kept soO busy with those Archons while building up into this next wave of army. Doesn't have charge just yet, though, so probably doesn't really want to commit in, but will try and hit this 4th base. And with double Prism, 1 Warp Prism can still micro on that main fight, while we do see a couple of Zealots warping into the main. And it looks as though soO will just give up the 4th base, unable to defend this here. There's a Queen pushing the Warp Prism back up to the top side. Again, a few Brutalings waddling forwards there, and 7 more Roaches on the way up as well. So again, these Roaches up and running. Overseer from soO going to be coming through the bottom side. A 4th hatchery about to drop down as well in the next few moments. +2 missile attack, muscular augments on the way up. +2 attack as well on the way here from Patience. All of this getting set to go. Zealots, Archons, and Immortals still gathering up in the center of the map. Roaches still pressing forwards, and a nice couple of force fields already grabbing a few of those Roaches there. So able to get a few of those Roaches already. Again, more of this army here from soO, moving around on the bottom side. Zealots continue to warp in. Templar Archives just over halfway done. Immortal +2 attack. All of this coming in right now as we get this set up here. I mean, what Patience has done is obviously by pushing across, killed that 4th base. That's already great, because transitioning on from here, it means that soO's just limited to 3 bases, which when it comes to production, getting a decent amount of workers up, 3 bases just doesn't really do it against a Protoss, especially with the style that soO wants to play. Roaches and Hydras and these sort of numbers, I mean, it's mostly Roaches. It's not an army that's going to trade efficiently against what Patience has. And if you're not trading efficiently, then you kind of need more workers. But to have more workers, you need enough bases, and there's absolutely no reason to have more than 62 workers here. In fact, you can see soO is perfectly saturated across 3 base. So that's why he falls into a lot of trouble, as the 4th gets killed and not even cancelled this time. Roaches and Hydras just, again, they can't really find the trades they need, and Patience is so happy just to back away and, force field a couple units here and there. That's an unfortunate immortal. But he's so happy just to say, well, if I'm denying the 4th base, I'm in a great position. I can build myself up into Storm, I can continue teching. The more Mortals and Archons I get in my army, the better it's going to be for me. And in general, that's why he's just backing away and saying, yeah, this is kind of alright for me so far. More force fields on this ramp and maybe a recall back home. This army does feel a little bit trapped out here. More Prism coming back along as well, just because there are a lot of units back at home. He doesn't want to recall right away because he wants to try and buy time for Storm. He does end up fighting on 2 angles here. soO goes for a little bit of a wraparound, something you pretty much have to do if you're going to fight with this Roach Hydra force. I tell you what, soO from 2 directions is working out. The units on the top right-hand side were never really kind of force fielded off like the units on the bottom were. So soO's able to get a really good trade. Can he pick off any of those Archons? No, but there was a sentry left behind. Wow, Patience loses a ton of units actually. Look at that resources loss going to go into soO's favor. Finds one more mortal. Wow, that's actually amazing after soO had such a weak start to the game as well. What a turnaround it's been. This army feels like it shouldn't be able to trade like this, and I guess that's Patience just being on the map for too long, maybe taking a couple fights where he needed to just go back home and play defensively, because there's no reason to be aggressive into masses of Roach Hydra. In fact, Roach Hydra is designed to be, almost attacked into more than anything else. It's designed to fight. And while, soO's army isn't great in terms of quality, the quantity of it definitely punished Patience there for, reinforcement with High Templar back at home, which were building up Storm energy, etc. It's not units that were there right away to help out, as here we go, Storms to help defend in the main base. I mean, DTs as well. These Roaches getting absolutely massacred. Nothing really achieved here at all by soO's Patience. Going to be able to clean those Roaches up. So those Roaches do get cleaned up, and now the Lurker Den on the way down on the natural expansion as well. Still some army from soO positioned out in the center of the map. Here we go from Patience, heading down to the bottom side of the map. Zealots, Archons, and Immortals in tow. Still a few Dropper Lords over here, but I mean, I kind of feel like this defense from Patience is going to be good enough. I don't think soO can do much, and what will be interesting if soO's army can jump on this army over here. Now, he has got the Lurker Den finished, so his quality of army has actually improved quite significantly in the last few moments. And these Lurkers could get a lot done if they find themselves in a strong position, which, I mean, really could just be on top of this 3rd base. Warning Storms coming down. soO, I feel like he's not diving into that 3rd as hard as he could be. Sends the Roaches up there now, but the Lurkers aren't really in position for that base. A couple more High Templar forward down Storms. I tell you what, those last High Templar, the Lurkers were on top of them, but they backed away. That's a huge loss, actually, because Killer Nose would have got rid of the last couple of Storms. Now there's still a few Storms available, and they will drop down to force these Roaches back. So soO will be pushed back here. Has a few more reinforcing Roaches coming up. Patience's 4th base very exposed, actually, and these Lurkers will be able to burrow, and this is a great position. Covers this ramp, covers this entryway over here. However, the Archons and Immortals going to be on top of the Lurkers pretty quick because the Roaches are occupied with the Nexus. They're not protecting the Lurkers at all. And soO's army is going to be cleaned out. Now, soO's rebuild is mostly Roaches again, and I just have to say, like, the more Mortals and the more Archons we see coming up right now, the more I feel like soO is just going to run into so much trouble fighting against what is a very efficient army composition at cleaning up Roaches. 9 more Hydras on the way out, 10 drones on the way up as well. soO taking this gold base just for some extra minerals. Still only 59 drones, by the way. I mean, obviously building up a few more now, but we're still far away from that kind of 70 to 80 workers, which is extremely comfortable for remaxing. We've been sitting at around 60 workers, and if we look at the income tab, we can't check it. There we go. We've got the income tab. We don't have the income graph. You can just see that Patience just been mining that a little bit more in general. Maybe a little bit less gas here and there. Obviously, he's about to get his 4th base up and running now, so he really is about to kick off. And just because of that 4th base being so late from soO, it's kept soO in a very tough position economically. Roaches and Hydras starting to come to the top. That's a nice catch on the Warp Prism. Really big kill right there, actually, as you see these few Roaches picking off. Even more of these probes, DT coming forwards. It will be a nice help to shut down. But it's still nice to see soO harassing around the map because, again, I feel like in a straight-up fight, he's not going to have the best of times, especially now Patience is back up to 170 supply. Great couple force fields. In the end, it was 3 more to actually not even get all of these units still. Now the Lurkers are going to get some kills from the low ground. Units are going to come around the top, and a little bit scared for Patience, maybe getting surrounded once again. Big warping into the main base, cancelled by the Queens, targeting down the Warp Prism. Huge play by soO. Now he doesn't have to pull even more units back and send reinforcements to deal with that. And obviously he doesn't take any damage either, so that's great. And it really allows soO a few moments just to sort of recuperate, because now Patience won't do much on the map, and it's all down to soO and what he wants to do and his pacing of this. Yes, he may not be in a perfect position, But obviously now he's got him, he's got the chance to kind of play this out a little bit how he wants to, rather than before. Now I feel like he was very forced to kind of take fights and to make things happen. He was very forced into kind of, potentially having to go back home and stay defending. These lurkers will cancel, but there are lurkers trying to make the main stalkers coming through to deflect those. Those overlords will not get the drop down. And the army of patience pulling back up towards this fourth now. So getting back up over here, infestation pit about to complete. Last setting morphing now into a hive on the main base, and again 4 bases pretty comfortable at the moment here from soO as we see a few more lurkers on the way in. Scanning a few more lurkers on the way up, and really just sticking to this composition, but slowly improving it with the infestors on the way out, hive and Aspire on the way down too. I mean, if there was a time to fight for patience, it would be very soon, right? Well, as these upgrades, as these extra units and structures come on in, this is a very weak moment for soO. In fact, you're going to see these DTs and Zealots should have a pretty good time. There's nothing really here. He's going to go for the Sport Crawl, which means now an Overseer has to come in to respond to this, and well, I mean, Army can run in all it likes, but there's still no Overseer. So his DTs are just going to get swiping, and obviously it's a lot of Army down to the bottom, as now the Army here from Patience presses forward. There's a few lurkers here, but not too many, and not really much support for them. I'll tell you what, with the double hatchery on this side, it's very difficult for soO to push through to defend this position. Storm's on his mineral line, he's losing a lot of drones all over again. Pressing forwards now, at least he's killed off the High Templar, which is something. Stops them morphing into Archons. soO is still maxed out. In fact, he's been left alone for a few moments, has allowed him to build up that bank, so rebuilding pretty much instantly. So it's still just Ling Roach Hydra, obviously the lurkers mixed in now and again. Jumping on this, we see more storms dropping down from Patience. A lot of high energy High Templar. Roaches try and get on top of them, but they're not too successful at all. And more storms. Those infestors, finally a fungal growth comes down on them. Archon's morphing in. I mean, these immortals can't really go anywhere. The fungal growths are good, and soO will clean up everything that attacks his bases. I mean, that's actually a huge cleanup from soO here, because that is an expensive army from the Pros player that's lost. You look at what Patience has now. It's a lot of Stalkers, and I just can't believe that soO is fighting off this army again and again. Stalkers are actually really bad against lurkers. Yes, they're very mobile, which means you can kind of dodge the lurkers quite a lot. Because, oh my god, he forgot to knock down these rocks to be able to mine from this gold base effectively. He has to make sure he does that. But the problem is with Stalkers against lurkers is that you can't really... How do you fight lurkers? You can't pick away at a distance because the lurkers outrange the Stalkers. You can't blink on top of them because they just get massacred. There is no really good way to fight lurkers with Stalkers. It is absolutely not what you want here as Patience. So, all of these Stalkers not going to do much for him, and maybe it'll be useful if some Broodlords come up, but even then, you're still going to have to... I mean, at that point, you kind of need... If there's Broodlords and Lurkers, you kind of need Tempests. There's no two ways about it. And, well, Patience is nowhere near setting up into Tempest, because while we've talked about Patience being on the map and doing all of this, all of these different things throughout the game, there's actually not been much expanding from him. Yes, he's got this gold base up now, but he still hasn't killed the rocks on. But, yeah, his economy is not amazing. And he's also really kind of not teched up at all, right? He's not got a Stargate ready to go. He's got no fleet beacon because of that. Look at that units lost tab. It's crazy. Resources lost is only slightly favoring Patience by about 1,000 or so. A few Zealots poised to strike up here. The War Prism as well, lingering on the corners of the base, wanting to jump in the next few moments. You see Hydra's going to be able to come in and actually pick away at a few of those probes. Just going to start picking their way through this Nexus. There he goes. Zealots and Stalkers pressing down in towards this gold base, in towards the silver mineral line as well. Zealots dropping in, picking off a couple more drones. And this hatchery is in a little bit of trouble, but the army from soO is going to come back home, and Patience is once again going to find himself a little bit stuck. Good for Fungal Grove, slowing down some of those Stalkers. They kind of blink back, but kind of just into more Hydralisks. Kills off the gold base at least, and there is the Zealots over here being cleaned up now too. Good defense by soO in the end. Has this base up as well, so actually has another base to work with. Looks as though he'll lose the Greater Spire. What a loss that is. No Broodlords, and that means that obviously you have to rebuild the entire Spire as well. That's a huge shame here, as we're going to be seeing the couple of Zealots going to get picked off, and, well, soO continuing to press across the map. No Broodlords to be brought into play now, but does have a huge army supply advantage. 70 army supply. It might just be enough to end this on the composition that he has already. Maybe he doesn't need the Broodlords. Obviously, Storms will have something to say about that. soO decides to just push through them. Now it's only a 60 army supply advantage as one of the Immortals gets picked off. Huge play. The Storms obviously kind of depleting the High Templar energy, so now morphing in the Archons. That's absolutely huge for soO, because it means that there's no High Templars building up energy again unless Patience invests into them. And again, Patience isn't actually in the best of positions to invest into anything like that. As we're going to be seeing those couple of Lurkers pushing those Zealots back down the ramp. they do get pushed away over there. We do just have the Nexus getting picked off. So for 20 minutes in game, I mean, soO also lost this base down here. In fact, both players have been contained to the 4 bases. Quite impressive. A couple of Stalkers unfortunately going down as they make a bit of a misplay, and these probes going down as well. I mean, this is just such a frustrating position because Patience kind of wants to mine something extra because, again, third base pretty much gone, natural and main are gone. It's a similar story for soO. He's already got a hatchery backup on this side, and there's nothing to kind of pressure him apart from this War Prism, which is currently being deflected anyways. So soO's kind of starting to mine comfortably once again, and I mean, that's huge for soO if he wants to win this game because, again, his army composition's definitely not been the best to fight Protoss in a long, drawn-out game, but it's, well, it's working for the moment. You can see Immortal Zealots pressing forwards. Storm coming down up on the high ground as these Zealots pushing on in. A couple more Lurkers finishing up now, going to burrow. And just turning around, those Archons taking quite a lot of damage. Stalkers will be dropping as well. Another Archon picked off here, and that is going to be a group of units from Patience going to get pushed back away to the right side. Probe's going to come in and mine off of the gold, and just going to be seeing those Lurkers able to push the Immortal back up through the top. Patience hanging out on the right. High Templar going to be finishing up here as well. A couple more observers on the way. We are going to be seeing soO. Again, those few Lurkers just coming across and trying to see what will happen. Dropping down. Changeling gets picked up. Extractor going to be finishing in a few moments as well. And more Zerglings also on the way out as we see this War Prism just heading across through the bottom side. Patience is truly having some tough times here, really kind of getting out of these 4 bases, and even just to harass and to hit the bases of, soO nowadays, never mind just to straight up apply never mind straight up just to kind of like fight or to apply pressure, expand himself. You just can't do anything of that. So he's really struggling here. A few Zerglings coming all the way along to the right side. 22 minutes in game. soO 170 supply to the 106, doubling in army. I think soO might have just about done enough here on Automaton to pick up the win. Zealots and Archons picking up those Zerglings. This Overlord going to be chased away as well. Huge army of soO moving down towards the bottom right-hand side. Hatchery on the way up. A few more Hydras and a Roach Roaring. And a Roach on the way to, not a Roach Roaring, obviously. We're 22 minutes in game. Roach Roaring has not been killed. We don't need to build another. I like soO's idea of just trying to expand somewhere else. I mean, obviously, we're getting into really dangerous territory, but soO does have those extra minerals on the gold to mine, so that helps a lot, and that's probably making the difference in terms of units that remain here. Great dodges on most of these Storms, and the Storms are mostly going down to help deal with Zerglings, which means these Hydras are going to be untouched by splash damage, and that's a pretty huge deal, as now Patience going to lose a bunch more probes out, trying a long-distance mine from this bottom right-hand side. Those probes continue to drop here, and well, a Zealot and an Archon pushing down to the bottom. This Queen is going to get picked off as well. Zergling's running in for a little bit of a surround. Zealot's going to be in a little bit of trouble, but nothing too crazy. As the War Prism coming back across, this entire army of soO continue to chase down. A few more Hydralisks on the way up. We're now going to be seeing a recall. There's just a few units in the corner. Patience trying to save what he can. Salvage anything possible when your income is this low. 700 minerals, 300 gas. It's not a lot of income. It's not a lot at all. You can't build much with that. And again, there's no sign of a Nexus. He's long distance mining the gold because that's the best he can do in terms of finding fresh minerals. It's a troubling moment for Patience. It really, really is. It's pushing forwards here. Well, a couple of Lurkers firing some shots. Observer was a little bit late to the party. In fact, Observer could be targeted down if soO sees it. He's got an Overseer. I don't think he needs to anyways, though. These Zealots on the left side will break through, but he's not going to be able to break through the army on the right, and soO will hold on to pick up a first game of this best of 3. Nicely played by soO. I mean, honestly, I thought soO was in so much trouble here. I will not go back on my word when we talk about that early game and things going wrong for soO. He's kind of really forced down on only 3 bases. He's kept on a very low work account. He was forced to play only Ling, Hydra, Roach, and obviously the Lurkers mixed in as well. And that really is a fine composition for the mid-game. But as time goes by, typically the Protoss becomes very good against that composition, but soO did everything he needed to stop that composition becoming a problem. So very well played by soO, picks up a long game number 1, and we'll see if Patience is able to fight back in game number 2, because again, definitely got himself in good positions, just needs to find a bit of a better follow-up to close things out. Cyber Forest, for map number 2, Welcome back, everybody. I know I say these things because I'm just so used to streaming. I'm like, welcome back to the series. You guys have literally just been like gone for like a second and it like flicks straight to it because of the editing. You're just like, Wardy, we were already here. I know. I apologize, guys. It's just the streamer side of me coming out. I'm still very new to doing these YouTube only casts. I mean, we've only been doing them since what? January, February-ish? We've done quite a few at this point, though. Gotta just say, love to you guys continue to grow the YouTube channel. I'm very impressed. This week, in fact, is, I guess let's introduce the players quick. Top left-hand side. Well, okay, you know what? Forge coming down. Let's just talk about it and talk about the game. Cannon rushing. Our Red Protoss player is Patience. Down a map here as he goes up against the Blue Zerg in the lower right-hand side, soO. I was just very quickly going to say, you know, fantastic to see the viewership popping back up again after we had a bit of a week off last week because of personal reasons and so on. So, good to be kind of back on track and viewership actually doing amazingly well on the last few videos. So, shout out to you guys for making that happen and allowing our bounce back to be so powerful. Here we go. Overlord will see the pylon. Overlord will see pylon number 2. And already we see a drone being pulled down to the low ground here. The free pylon wall-off will stop any units getting in here, so the cannons can come in safely. And there's cannon number 1 on the low ground. So the game plan here, I imagine, is to get cannon 1 on the low ground, and then build up the cannons on the high ground, protected by this cannon down here. And because the pylons on the high ground is done very early, it just means there's no real easy way to defend that, perhaps. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could come in and pull drones to fight it, but then is that worth it to then basically still be in trouble? I don't necessarily think so. So a very smart cannon rush here by Patience, as you can see that hatchery is going to be allowed to finish, so soO will not cancel his hatchery. And another cannon coming up just to the side right now, so this ramp is going to be completely shut down. Now soO is building triple spine crawler behind the mineral line, something Patience sees and says, well, if that's your response and I can scout it, I'll respond myself. Start to build up extra cannons, so hoping you can get enough cannons up to kind of fight back a little bit. I have quite a few of them. Obviously, the more cannons he places down, the more of an investment this is from Patience. And while he does have a Nexus already built at home, that's in lieu of a gateway here. He still doesn't have a gateway. It means he still doesn't have Cybercore, which means his overall tech in the game is obviously very delayed and in quite a lot of trouble, as we're going to be seeing those cannons picking their way through the natural expansion. A couple of Zerglings heading across towards the upper left-hand side as well. Just going to be jumping into the natural, and a few probes that she pulled down to help. Just going to try and chase those. So a little bit of a nuisance here. Obviously across the map, the spines have made their move forwards. I have to say, I feel like these spines are not having a great time just yet. A couple of Zerglings as well will tank for them a little bit, though. The Broodlings on the low ground have helped as well, and they did soak up some damage, which has been quite important. Oh man, 2 spines down and the Queen. There's still high ground vision here, but these cannons not in range of the spines, so the pylons will get picked off eventually. And as those pylons go down, the spine can move forwards and kill off these cannons as well without being attacked, because there's no high ground vision, so there's no way for those cannons to fight back. So soO will break out of this, but the damage dealt is insane. These cannons have killed 10 Lings and a Queen, 2 spine crawlers. Obviously 3 drones were invested into these spines, and no drones have been made for a while. soO will go straight into a lair as a follow-up here, and I think he just knows he is in trouble. He has no hatchery. That got killed off earlier as well, of course. And I mean, Patience is already on a Nexus, and yes, sure, his gateway is late, but I don't think there's a, in terms of trying to macro, I don't think there's a way to really beat Patience here. Whereas if you look at it in terms of looking at trying to kill Patience right now, it actually looks maybe like there's some hope, right? Because Patience doesn't have a lot of straight-up defensive units back at home still. So that's where I think the opportunity is at the moment, is we're going to be seeing that spine crawler picking its way through this pylon. Just poking and prodding, and be picking this off in the next couple of moments. The pylon will be killed, as these couple of cannons are going to be taking some damage as well, so those are also going to be falling down. So those cannons getting killed off as lair about to complete here from soO. After lair completed, we see the Nidus network. I don't think anyone would be all too shocked about that, right? I mean, Nidus network absolutely makes sense given the circumstances here. I mean, still no Cybernetics core finish here from Patience. And Nidus in the main base could be extremely dangerous. So let's see what soO can do. I would really only imagine the Nidus will come down in the main. I mean, especially when you know at the front there's such a defense built up. Look at this. I mean, triple cannon built over here. Big thing will be the Robo in the natural. But even if you just deny mining in the natural, that's 2 gases you lose. And if you kill the Nexus, you do kind of reset this to a weird 1-base versus 1-base scenario. He cancels the Nidus because he sees it with the probe. That's a... Oh, does he? I don't know, actually. I think because it was just... Was it just scouted by Patience? Yeah, it was scouted. Is that because he has a... that's actually crazy. Yeah. That's a shame. It was just a probe that ran up the ramp and it got scouted. Huh. It's a shame because actually I feel like if these probes weren't and stalkers weren't pre-pulled, a Nidus probably goes off anyways and still does a lot because of, again, just the lack of units. Now Su's in a really weird spot. As he takes his natural expansion, he's dropping down his Spire. Obviously, I mean, having to cancel the Nidus is painful, so going into a few Mutalisks. The problem is you're never going to have enough Mutalisks to realistically be in a strong position here at all, right? You're never going to get up to like 10 Mutalisks. And if you do, even with 10 Mutalisks, right, I mean, it's only 2 bases of the Protoss. They don't need to take a third just yet. So they can very easily defend that. A shield battery and a cannon in each mineral line. I mean, cannons already here should be able to defend. There's very limited amount of things that Su can do at the moment. There's losing an Overlord. Has supply blocked him as well. I mean, it's just one of those tough games where everything is already kind of somewhat determined and Su is already kind of in a lot of trouble, right? So the Nidus wants his way out of it. Having the Nidus scout and then having to respond now just means that he's going to have to be in a position where it's like, well, yeah, I actually just don't know what I do now, right? Like, anything he does is going to look a little bit silly. His Patience drops down double Stargate. I mean, has not seen the Spire, but I mean, double Stargate is going to be great in this position anyways, right? Double Stargate is a very efficient way to trade. It's going to be able to shut down a lot of workers. We talked about a lot of how the Archons in that first game, they're kind of controlling the map, their presence on the map. They keep tabs on what the Zerg is doing, but they also harass the worker line. They force a reaction. They slow down the worker count. So whatever you do here, Phoenix are always going to be a good setup. The only thing that double Stargate might be weaker against is like something like an all-in. But even then, double Stargate can have so much versatility. You build double Oracle. That's very good against Zerglings and Roaches and Ravagers even. You can build double Void Ray as well if you feel like you have the time. I mean, obviously Phoenix is kind of the go-to, but you have other options on the Stargate. And it means that you're not really kind of hemming yourself into just one kind of all-in gamble here from Patience. No, absolutely, you can respond, you can react. And the fact he is making Phoenix against Mutas is just an absolute dream scenario. This is just everything going wrong at the same time here for Su, unfortunately, which... Again, I mean, it's one of those games where it was maybe already decided a little earlier on, kind of how this was going and so. And, yeah, it's just not being super pretty as we do see this. Queen is poking away at that Warp Prism. Few Mutalisks will fly in and able to pick that Warp Prism up, so nicely done there. A couple more gateways on the way up in the main base too. And again, a lot of these cannons just dropping down on the natural expansion. A few Stalkers hanging out over to the left-hand side, and just going to be seeing the +1 air weapons coming up on that cyber core as well. So Realisks continue to come in towards the upper left-hand side. As you do see, the Phoenix from Patience just going to be hanging out and having a little bit of a look to see what they can do. So a couple of gates continue to come up here. Twilight Council dropping down. And we are going to be seeing the 3 Mutalisks just on the way out. I mean, obviously already a few meters up. He's making more and more, but I mean, again, double Stargate Phoenix. It's just like a disaster, isn't it? What is Su meant to do in this game? It's such a frustrating one for him. I mean, this is where I think if you're... I don't even know, like, it just probably feels so defeating. And yeah, you're going to try and stick around. But I mean, you're only just taking a third hatchery as the Protoss takes their third Nexus. Okay, a few Lings on top of it might be able to do something. And okay, in fairness, another Phoenix drops. I mean, the mutant control has been okay, but now Corruptor's on the way up as well. You're kind of being forced into this air composition, and you know, Patience is already kind of done with it. He's building Immortals, he's getting +1 ground weapons. Yeah, he's also upgrading those Phoenix too, because there's still a few of them on the map, but he's going to have a ground army shortly, and those Corruptors are not going to do much against a ground army. Yeah, okay, they can caustic spray a building here and there, but there's already cannons on the natural. There's going to be at least a cannon on the main. While that's not going to shut down the Corruptors in its entirety, it's still going to help push them back in general, right? And I just don't see an amazing ending to this game for Su at all. I'm still struggling to see how he claws his way back into this, because this is one of the... You know, while the supplies are still maintaining, kind of, you know, being a bit close, I think Su's in a lot of trouble, and it's just one of those games where I think when the Army of Patience builds, it's going to be so overwhelming, it's going to be so obvious when this army attacks just how far ahead Patience is. It's just Patience is doing all the right things in terms of building up and setting up for that now, and so you don't quite see the disparity between the position the two players are in just yet. if you're purely looking at those numbers. So as this pushes off to come across the map, extra gateways are finished. We're talking about 8 gateways here. There's about to be resonating glaives and +1 attack. These are all things which there's not really an answer to from soO. I mean, he's building more and more Mutalisks. I mean, there's so many sentries and stalkers in this army, plus the Phoenix, the Mutas are really unlikely to be able to save the day at all. I'm surprised we're attacking just a little bit before resonating glaives, but it's still not too far off, and I guess there's not too many adepts in this army composition just yet as the push into the third base. Already looking pretty effective now. The Mutas will dive into this fight. For a moment, they wanted to target down the Warp Prism. They decide not to in the end. This does allow more Stalkers to warp in, but there it is. The target fire on the Prism. Stalker warp in is cancelled, but I think there's already just too much on the ground. We zoom into a massacre as Mutas continue to be killed. The sentries and Stalkers are getting the job done. Obviously, as Mutas go down, you know, the less Mutas there are, the less you kill, and the more effective this becomes. And the reinforced Stalkers is huge. Another Warp Prism showing up. Probably, you know, Patience a good read. No need a second Prism because there's Mutalisks here, and it's so easy for those Mutas to jump on top of a Warp Prism. Protects the Warp Prism this time around. The Corruptors and the Mutas will try and dive in, but the Stalkers will finish. The extra warping is probably enough. All the Mutas go down. The Corruptors, believe it or not, cannot fight back against this army, and Patience ties us up 1-1. With the Cannon Rush just putting them into a very strong position, into a very well played out follow-up in the game. I feel like by the time that attack finally came in from Patience, it wasn't even really close. The denial on the Warp Prism board soO a few extra seconds, and it was nothing more than that. As soon as a few reinforcements arrived, boom. It was done. Alright, well, a third game comes in between these two players. I tell you what, for all these YouTube casts I've been doing lately, I feel like we constantly hit third games, which is pretty awesome. Because, well, it just makes it a nice long series, right? Nice action, good bit of back and forth. Let's see what happens. I believe it's Port Alexander for map number 3, but don't get too upset at me if you get your boats ready and that's not actually Port Alexander. I think that's just what I saw before, but I could be wrong. So let's find out. I guess you guys are going to find out any second when I stop talking and I put the next map on. You guys will be very happy to get there because I should have shut up about 20 seconds ago. Let's go. Tied up. It is Port Alexander for our third map. That's the top left-hand side. Rocking up in the red. It's Patience. Our Protoss representative in this series today. To the bottom right-hand side, our blue Zerg player from Chivo Esports is soO. Alrighty then, so kicking off into this game number 3. As you see, the probe just going to be popping across down to the bottom right hand side. A few drones on the way out here from soO. Getting this set up, getting this rolling in the early few moments. Going to be in attempt of a hatchery first, but probe will block, and that's obviously already a bit of a nuisance. And we'll see if soO wants to just go gas pool or if he's going to try and take the hatch elsewhere. Oh, there's just gas and pool being taken, so kind of forced into this gas pool first rather than being allowed to take his hatchery. There's just Patience being a nuisance, riding again, dropping the pylon here. Going to force this base up here to be taken, or this one out here generally initially. Although it looks like he actually really does want to take the base here to begin with. Patience lets this pylon finish, but he will not. It would have been very annoying. Oh my god, he blocks it again though. This is actually getting very bad for soO, because now he's going to be delayed even further on this base. And of course, Patience can build another pylon. And now soO's going to be wishing he did just go for this base up here. So, again, everything early game just goes wrong for soO, because he's not able to get his base up. And oh my god, he's going to get blocked again. What on earth are you doing? soO had the minerals as well just to line it up a long time ago. I mean, Patience will not build a pylon here again. He will actually leave the pylon over here. Doesn't want to cancel because this drone was, man, maybe that's what soO was doing. He was really, again, hoping he could just take this base. But now he's delayed a hatchery by a huge amount of time. For what purpose? To try and take a base on the natural. Now, obviously, he might be afraid of taking the base out to the third for whatever reason. But it's kind of weird to be that afraid of it, because typically in a PvZ, you're going to go up to the third base pretty quickly anyways. The biggest difference is going to be the couple of drones that start mining initially will be split up, and that does make them very vulnerable to adepts here early on. A couple of wings and a drone going to be picking their way through the pylon. We're going to see a cybernetics core dropping down in the natural as well, and we're going to be seeing the assimilator is about to finish up. Patience backing away up for the top. Again, a couple of lings in this drone just being blocked by this Cybercore. Cybercores, they have a lot of HP, so it's very difficult to get rid of them. And he's even going to leave this up. Man, soO is not allowed to have bases here today. Not at all. You'll see the sentry picking away at the Overlord down on the bottom side of the natural. Nexus about to finish up. Robo facility dropping down in the main base too. Sentry on its way out. So there's going to be 2 sentries caught up together. Perhaps something else to be added into this wall off here shortly. And speed finishes up, and again the 3 bases going to be set up very soon. There's a couple of Zerglings from soO heading up the top side. Already that probe being chased away as a couple of Zerglings going to go after it. Probe will fall. So the probe goes down, and more of these Zerglings again coming up through the top. A couple of sentries hanging out in this little wall off, and that means it's going to be pretty hard to break that. A fast robo already being put to use. Chrono boosting out an immortal. The thing is, soO has had such a delay on his bases early, and everything is just not quite what he wants it to be. He really hasn't had a great start, and I really feel an aggressive attack from Patience could be a very good way to punish those little things early on. Continues up in the main. A few more drones starting to mine away on the 3rd base as well. Natural hatchery. About to finish up in the next few moments. There's still a few Zerglings trying to poke forwards here. Extractors dropping down. And I'm just going to be seeing a few more overlords and a few Zerglings on the way up as well. So all of this coming out right now, just waiting for the kind of ladder finish and to see where soO's going to take this. Makes a ton of Zerglings right now to try and get ready to help defend this attack. That's the issue, right? There's not even a Rotron here for soO to kind of defend. Patience is pushing really early. Like, way earlier than I thought. I mean, this is actually just 3 sentries and an immortal. He has to be very careful. I mean, he's going to put himself in a position where he can force field himself very safely, very easily. One force field and he is absolutely protected here. That should buy enough time for the War Prism to get across. Twilight Council finishing up. Hydra Stem is on the way down here on the 3rd base. A couple of Adepts warping into the center of the map as well, and there is a recall. And the sentries and the Immortal going back home into the natural expansion. Resonating Glaives and the +1 attack on the way up here from Patience as the Overseer comes through into the main base as well. It's just coming through to have a little bit of a scatter around. These couple of extra gateways getting dropped in. And again, the 2 Immortals just going to be pushing to go and join the rest of the army across the map already. War Prism saves those couple of Adepts. I guess there's just the Immortals that want to jump into the Prism here. The sentries are being left at home. Just going into Glaives really is just going to wait for that Glaives and +1 to finish before this aggression really continues, but it does give soO some time to get up into Hydras. The big thing will probably be getting up into some Banelings, because Banelings will be very effective against those Adepts, force them to split apart, and just force them to just, kite or back away in general a little bit. It's going to be a huge helping hand, so soO making the right sort of movements towards kind of a setup here to defend. And as we do see Zerglings are about to arrive, they go through the 3rd base. Maybe able to jump on a probe, a couple more Adepts. Going to be in a lot of trouble here as well. They're also going to get taken down. And a few of these sentries are going to be taking a little bit of damage as well. So sentries just about able to survive there. Again, good force fields on this ramp, keeping these Zerglings out, stopping these from being able to push through. Although now they're able to come up the ramp, and the sentries have to be careful. There's one force field down to the bottom side. Again, 12 Lings, 5 Hydras. Baneling Nest finishing. +1 missiles now on the way from soO as well. Muscular Augments on the way out in the Hydra Den. All of this coming through here from Patience as another couple of Zerglings getting shaved off. We are waiting for Patience to go for this push, and soO just needs to get this army ready to roll. 55 drones. There's no 3rd base from Patience. This is all in. He's already got the Prism and Immortals and Adepts on the bottom side of the map. I just know he said Archons, and that is the one thing obviously missing here. Very expensive to afford those. With everything else he's been building, it does mean I feel like there's a real susceptibility to just being hit by these Banelings. Force fields are going to absolutely have to be on point. Banes don't have Bane speed, so the force fields should do a pretty good job. The Banes on the top side don't do much. Neither will the Banes on the bottom, and they aren't allowed to retreat either. Good force fields to stop those backing away towards the rest of the army. More Banes are building, but nowhere near as many as were just lost. And Depth starting to shade on through, and Patience with a terrifying army on the front doorstep here. soO would not open the door to this man. This crossfire looks terrifying as Adepts do shade up into the main. I mean, look at all the units that pulls out of position, and it just gives Patience the numbers to just push so easily into everything else down on the low ground. These Hydras, these Queens, not going to do anything. Adepts coming in. Hydras don't last long at all against Adepts, with Resonating Glaives especially. And well, Banelings actually does force a cancel down those Adepts. The Warp Prism cancelling the Warp so they don't all get blown up. By cancelling, he keeps himself the money rather than losing all of the money. soO is going to type out, G, call that a game. Patience is going to take it 2-1. Pretty fun series here, like a real variety of things happening. From that really ridiculous first game, which is pretty long and pretty back and forth, to a very kind of decisive game number 2. The third game, very decisive as well, I feel, for Patience. Just put himself into a good position. soO really struggled to deal with that. And that's going to be GG's. So Patience takes it 2-1 over soO. Thanks so much for watching today's YouTube cast, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, make sure you hit that like button, comment down below, let me know what you thought, and subscribe if you haven't already done so.